Lauren, welcome back to Spark TV.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a while.
I know. And I'm so excited because I'm pretty sure, and my memory doesn't always serve me well, but I'm pretty sure you're the first person that's come back for round two since we started the podcast. I think we started this podcast 2 years ago now. You're the first return guest, and I'm so excited because obviously you're a Spark member. So I followed your journey, and you're just an amazing person. So I follow your journey. So I'm so excited to update everyone on where you are at.
Thank you. Well, yeah, thanks for having me back. I just like catching up with you.
It's so good. And it's so cool too. And I know we're going to get into it because, business is such an evolution. I know we all
Mm.
kind of start out and we think we've got the right idea and we start with where we're at, but like things change so much over our business journey. And yeah, I'm so excited to share your story. So let's start out by just telling everyone who you are and what you do.
Certainly. I run Thea Media, a digital marketing agency based on the Sunshine Coast, but we serve clients locally and nationally. In particular, serving those in health, wellness, and beauty space, and providing services across SEO, Google Ads, social media, paid ads, email marketing. So yeah, very much digital marketing agency focused on health, beauty, wellness.
So cool. I love it. And I love it because when I first met you, that's not where you were. So when I first met you, it was LMF marketing,
Hmm.
but probably particularly focused on SEO, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
why don't we, because yeah, I feel like we need to share the journey with everybody. So why don't we start there? You
Mm.
talk to me about that first agency that you developed.
Yeah, so I mean, God, as you said before, it's definitely been an evolution with the business. Because it's over 6 years now that I've had,
Wow.
yeah, the business working for myself. So it's definitely gone through, yeah, a lot of growth, iterations, revisions to get it to a place that really aligns. So yeah, originally it was LMF marketing, and I ran it as LMF marketing for 4 years. Started as that solopreneur, doing everything, wearing all the hats, just me. I'd come from a large agency where I'd worked previously, so I'd been in that big agency land where it was, very sales focused, not really customer service or retention based. And I absolutely hated that. So I really wanted, to build an agency where it was things were done differently and you could really support small businesses. So yeah, originally offering or supporting a range of industries and business types because as you do in the early years of business, you say yes to whatever you can and take on what you can and learn along the way. But even along those initial years, SEO has always been one of my biggest, interests in the digital space. I think it's just such a fantastic channel. And my passion is, and interest definitely align around health wellness. So we did naturally kind of attract those clients, became more specialized in being able to serve them. And so, yeah, honestly, over those first 4 years, it was just constant growth. It was hard work at times, but I think a lot of business owners can relate where initially you kind of just keep going, things just keep
Yeah.
growing, and you're like, okay, well, I just want more growth, and we'll just see what happens. Um, and then I think it was not long after we spoke last, on the podcast, that I took a big leap and acquired another agency to kind of try and expand on what I was doing. I had the vision of being, I guess you could say, like a full service, a one-stop shop for small businesses so we could really serve them. I acquired a distressed agency that, it wasn't profitable, but it seemed to have a lot of potential. That was back in 2022. And that was honestly one of the biggest learning curves. We've chatted a few times, one on one since then.
I know. And I think if you're open to it, I actually think that is a story worth sharing. Because there's so many lessons in it.
Mm.
So why don't you tell me, so when this opportunity arose, what were you thinking? Like what was going through your mind in terms of why should you acquire another business?
Look, so this is where it is really interesting because, upon reflection, you're like, oh, okay, maybe that was different to, what I was thinking at the time. But, originally I was already in a place where, my business was doing really well, but it was very much set up as, what you kind of call that hero model, where, I was the face of the business, branded as
Mhm.
LMF marketing. It was really, I guess you could say quite restricted. There was real expectations when clients came on that they dealt with me and me only. It
Mm,
was getting hard to try and bring on team and reset those expectations because of how we were branded and how I'd, built the brand over the years. So
yeah.
one of my, biggest considerations was how can I shift into a true agency model where I'm removed from being the face. I can, work behind the scenes, have the team, managing clients and doing day to day, and I can make sure it all just comes together nicely. Um, so, that was kind of original thinking and kind of where I was already at. And then when this business opportunity came up, it was a local business with a local office, local team, local clients, where I still very much had a national portfolio of clients. So it seemed like a great opportunity to come into the local market as well. Um, I'm also someone who's quite, I guess, opportunistic and optimistic. And though there were some, real red flags, from that initial due diligence, as I said, it's a distressed agency. It also looked like, okay, I could turn this around, like
Yeah.
that'll be fine. It
Bloody
won't be
entrepreneurs were so optimistic.
so optimistic.
Yep.
And look, I definitely don't regret it, but it's just, the learnings you take from that of, thinking again, which I think a lot of business owners can relate to, when you start off and you start growing and you almost get caught in this, oh, I've got to keep growing and I've got to get bigger.
Yes.
And I was very much going down that path of like, oh, this is an opportunity and I can get bigger and I can add an extra, 25-30%, revenue like that. And, I can expand the team and, oh, we can do X, Y, Z. And, didn't go that way.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And it's interesting too, and we'll get to the how it actually went in a second, but it is interesting. I know one of the conversations you and I had, because I was looking to acquire a business at the time. And, I was thinking, why do I need to be bigger? Like, is it this growth at all costs mentality? What is success? What do I actually want for the business? Sometimes I think we're so stuck in the business and in the day to day and in the just keep going, keep going, keep going, that we don't actually take a step back and kind of think about, what do I want the future to look like? And yes, obviously
Mm.
I do want that, larger presence where it's not me as the face. I want this, I want this. I was ticking those boxes, but perhaps things happen quickly sometimes and you don't actually think about long term what your definition of success actually is.
Yeah, exactly. And, that was where, upon reflection, it's like, oh, okay, maybe my drivers weren't actually as aligned as I thought. And also, as, I wasn't as consciously aware of them as I thought. Because, it was kind of about a year, maybe 10 months after the acquisition, sitting down with a good friend of mine. And, she just, really upfront asked, like, why did you do it? Because, at that stage, I'd had, a real roller coaster of taking on new team that were quite shocked by, everything that had unfolded. They hadn't had warning. There was not only, poor kind of financial management, but unfortunately poor client management. So that took, there's a lot of stress around that.
Mm.
And yeah, when my friend asked, like, why did you do it? It's like, honestly, I thought I wasn't good enough and I had to do it. I had to keep growing. I had to get the office. I had to have a team. I had to have local presence, like I didn't have all these things you should have as a business owner. And I thought this was a way to get them. And it was just like, oh God, that's why I did that. Because, yeah, this isn't how I like living life. I don't want to do 60 to 80-hour weeks and have all this stress and be dealing with unhappy clients. Like, I want to go back to 4 days a week and happy clients and high profit. Like,
I, isn't it wild though? Like, I literally want to cry. That whole idea that we're not good enough and that there is this like checklist of things in business that we're supposed to tick off that makes
mm,
us worthy or successful or whatever it is. It's just, I don't know. It takes a long time in business to actually figure that out for yourself, doesn't it? And unfortunately, sometimes a bit of hauling yourself across the coals to figure
mhm.
out like what is enough and what you value and what your definition of success is. Yeah, it's a bit full on, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, we also do with business just feel everything should be fine. It should always be this linear, trajectory of how it's going to happen. But again, talking with, friends and business friends recently, it's like, no, actually, it really is a life cycle with the business. And it's like you go through, that infancy of getting everything set up and figuring stuff out. And then you almost come to like those messy teenage years where it's like, trying to prove yourself and what do you actually want, and you try different things. And I definitely feel like for me that was going through the acquisition,
Mm,
but coming out the other side of it, after a year, I am actually really proud of myself for a year after the acquisition being able to make that hard decision of this isn't right, this isn't what I want, this isn't gonna, turn out the way I thought, and I'm gonna stop on this path now.
yeah.
Which when you've invested a lot of money, a lot of time, it can be really hard to actually, kind of put the brakes on and stop and change. And I'm so glad I did before we got to a place where I was completely burnt out, or we were carrying any debt, or any of those situations that can so easily arise. Not only with acquisitions, but when you go through fast growth or big business changes. And it's, yeah, kind of like coming through those teenage years almost to be like, oh, what do I actually want?
Yeah, and I love what you just said around the time investment, the monetary investment you've already made. Sometimes it feels like we have to keep pushing because of all of the effort we've already made. And
Mm,
I love that you said, you caught it at a time where you went, I hadn't pushed too far. Because unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people do. They just go, I've got to keep going, I've got to keep going. There's this kind of rhetoric that is, you know, it is hard, so just keep going and hopefully one day there'll be success, and that we
mm.
are all a little crazy and that we do just keep pushing. But sometimes it is really valuable to stop and actually assess the situation and, yeah, figure out what's right for you.
Yeah, and look, I'll be completely honest, it wasn't easy.
Mm,
Coming to that decision, I think, I delayed it, for it was probably there in my mind for a while of like, I think this isn't right, something's got to change, but you ignore, you push, you try different things. And, when I did come to it, it was a really hard decision. And I honestly felt like a failure. It was this, that
mm,
crushing, like, I took this risk, I've invested this money, I've taken on, all of this, and it hasn't gone to plan. And it was just that real like, oh, it's my fault and I'm a failure. Again, it's only as you move through things and it's like,
mm.
oh, actually, no, I've like, from everything I went through,
Yes.
the business now that I've rebranded, like, our processes are, like awesome.
Yeah.
I had to really supercharge them. I've got amazing onboarding, in place. We've built this epic brand that's really aligned. And, I trimmed back clients that I just don't want to work with because I don't like those industries and I'm not going to bring them on just for the money. We're really back to this nice place, but only because I went through what I went through.
Yeah, it's just, and I love that you have such a positive attitude about it, because I know behind the positive, it would have been really freaking hard. Uh, Sort of have come out the other side and having gone through that process and now have a business that is so beautifully you. And it is, because every time I see it, every time I see the branding, your social posts, I'm like, oh, that's you. It's so you. So amazing. It's awesome. So congratulations, you are the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what was that process like when you said, okay, this isn't right? I need to create something that is the evolution, that is, perhaps everything that you wanted when you made the decision to acquire the business. But okay, now I've got to do it a different way. What was that rebrand, refocus process like for you?
Yeah, look, honestly, like at first it was, as I said, really, really hard, really upsetting to be like, okay, this hasn't worked and something's got to change. But it was also, kind of within a day, within a couple of days, it was that, deep sense of relief of
Yeah.
just like,
Yes.
okay, things, it's kind of, it almost felt like, especially because I had acquired another brand, acquired other team, other clients. It wasn't mine. And, especially in a small business, you really do, you need to have that connection to what's going on. Like you do need to feel, this is, my team, my people who get me, these are my clients who we're aligned in our values of how we like doing business, all of that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
though it was hard to, scale back and, pivot, once I'd made the decision, it was like, oh, thank God, I can have a breather. Um, you know, Even like one of the scary things was, I was investing more money to rebrand. So that was a
Yeah.
big inspiration, which again at first was like, holy crap, should I be doing this? Um, but just that, yeah, I guess that sense of relief and realignment. And again, kind of 9 months or 8 months on now since the rebrand, it's just feels so good, and
Mm.
so aligned. So yeah, it was scary, but I think once you, I don't know, maybe kind of look at, listen or look at the signs around, sometimes the universe is just, things are really hard. And
Yeah.
it's like you're just, pushing, mud up a hill and it's like, why is this not working? And then when you make a decision or a change and things just start flowing again, you're like, okay, that was the right decision. This feels good.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because sometimes not making a decision, we've talked about putting things off and holding on for too long.
Mm.
Sometimes I think the not making a decision is the sign to the you are actually making a decision by not making a decision. So
Yes.
to actually commit, yes, things just fall away, unfold, feel so much flowier, which is amazing.
Yeah, and a lot of, that anxiety was around, kind of delaying those decisions. As I said, I think, for quite a few months it kind of been building of like, this isn't right. This isn't what you want.
Yep.
It's not going to pan out as you expected. But I kept pushing and ignoring that. And yeah, I was so stressed. I was really anxious about things.
Yeah.
And then it was like made the decision and it was like, oh God, I can sleep again.
Oh, it's wild. That's so, so cool, isn't it? So this iteration of the business, what are the products and services?
So we have, scaled back again, which
Yep.
is good. We've kind of expanded on services and we've gone back to our core, which is really around, you could say well, I guess your core digital marketing services, which is SEO, Google Ads, social media management and social media ads, as well as email marketing. My passion has always been around, kind of a holistic integration of those to, really cover the customer, journey and life cycle as they, interact online and with businesses. So yeah, we're no longer doing anything around websites or branding, or excessive content creation. It's these are our core skills and what we do really well, and we're back to doing them, which is great.
That is so good. And I actually love that makeup of services as well, because I see a lot of people silo, and just kind of look at, well, if I just have an Instagram manager, my life will be great. And I'm like, that's not how it works.
No, no, it doesn't anymore.
No.
And that's why, especially with our clients, and kind of, it's almost this full journey back to kind of where I started, but actually, like living out that original vision, of what I wanted, which was to be able to, support small businesses with great marketing support in those key areas. Especially now I have kind of trimmed things back in the business, we can still be really affordable for growing small businesses. I really want to grow with them. So many of our clients, that are with us at the moment, I've been with them for years, and we may have started in one area, and then as they were ready for it, we've expanded on, their activities and what they're doing, so we can really grow with them. And I think that's something like, business owners need to understand. You can't just do one activity and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not going to work, as you say, in like a siloed approach, but you also can't do everything at once. So you want to be quite strategic in how you're getting started with your marketing, where those first investments are, and if you're laying like a good foundation to then be building upon in the years ahead.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because you mentioned as well the customer journey. And I think that's something that non-marketing people don't think about as much, in terms of it isn't as linear as we said, as post something on Instagram, somebody buys from you, customers actually need to interact with the brand so many times and in so many different ways and channels to actually feel that trust and that confidence to make that purchase. Where do you think small business owners should start when it comes to thinking about the best approach to their marketing? I know that's such a wild question to ask. But any tips for us business owners?
And look, and so this is where it can get so hard and so confusing for business owners, because you jump online and you'll have 20 gurus telling you this is the way to do it. But the thing is, every business is going to be unique. It's going to depend on, okay, your industry, your location, who are you serving, what's your budget like, operating with health, wellness, beauty businesses, and within that, majority, not all of them, but majority would be service-based businesses in that space. Local marketing and SEO is such a powerful one. Especially if you've got, I say for startups, don't outsource your social media. That is one of the best things that they can keep in-house, learn and expand their understanding on, because it's not going to be a direct lead or sales generator. These days it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So keeping organic in-house, focusing on local marketing, ideally search for those health, wellness, beauty, service-based businesses is really effective. And then once you've kind of got that, pipeline filling, you've got leads coming in, you've got steady, appointments, then there's opportunity to expand into, potentially, if you really want to push the growth and get new bookings, paid social ads, going out with a proven offer. Maybe it's the intro offer, you've launched. But then it's kind of looking at, okay, how do we look at that big customer journey, and maybe it's email marketing to increase retention and repeat bookings. So yeah, local businesses, local search marketing is really powerful and can set you up for the long term. If you are established with that presence, but you are trying to push for new bookings, paid social media ads is a brilliant way to generate that. You just need a great strategy and a reasonable budget behind to get started. If you've kind of got those happening, but it's looking at, almost tweaking all the little, optimizers, then potentially email marketing to, boost retention, as I said. Maybe it's upselling existing customers to products that you sell in store. So look, it really varies based on all of those factors. Business, position, where they are in their lifestyle,
Yeah.
life cycle, and opportunities they need to plug or things they're not capitalizing on.
I love it because, each channel that you just spoke about delivered a different outcome. It's like, so exactly as you said, what stage is the business at? What are you already doing well at? What is your goal? Therefore, let's add this in. It's not a, you know, you need everything all at once, which is so overwhelming, can be very costly, but it is, okay, let's look at the business where you're at, what you actually want to achieve, and implement a solution. Then once we've got that, humming along, let's look at the next step. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a beautiful approach, I think, especially for small business owners who are overwhelmed.
Yeah, and also, they need to be so efficient with how they're, investing into their marketing. And so, I've had countless, kind of inquiries come through over the years, and like, we want social media management. I'm like, okay, well, why? What's your business goals and where you're at? Like, we want new leads. We want 20 new leads a month. It's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
It's just like,
totally.
because yeah,
Yeah.
you could spend, 1,500, 2,000 more per month on social media, management. And especially now, it's very, very unlikely you would see that return.
Yeah.
But local search marketing, you could invest that and see 4 times plus return, when done well with a good campaign.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I love that about you as an agency person, that you don't just go, yeah, sure, I'll take the money and do it. Like, it is that, what are you actually trying to achieve? Because I want to make sure that if I take your money, I am actually going to deliver results, which,
Mm.
yeah, I just think, I mean, even going all the way back to your story when you were in agency land, and the whole reason you went into business was to make sure that you looked after your customers, looked after small businesses, and actually delivered on what you said you were going to deliver on.
Exactly. And that was even where, in my kind of acquisition journey, I felt that misalignment coming through, because, in my mind, it's always very much been, in that kind of hierarchy, you look after your customers, you look after your team, and the profit will follow.
Yeah.
But, when it was so compressed with, overheads have doubled, you got higher turnover of clients, it was that flip of, okay, I just need to make money. And,
Yeah.
so I just started, saying yes. And it's like, well, hang on, why am I saying yes? Because
Yeah.
I actually don't feel 100% confident or aligned with that client. So again, it's, yeah, how you can kind of get caught up in business and slightly, go down the wrong path, and how you can bring that back as well.
If somebody is listening to this right now and they're like, oh my God, that's me. I am feeling like I veered off the path. I'm straight onto the wrong track. Do you have any tips for, something that they can do to, I guess, start that process of self-reflection or self-business reflection?
I think, one of the most powerful things for me was actually talking to, my business friends. I got so busy after the acquisition, I was in a bubble. I was just doing what I needed to do. I was working massive hours. I wasn't really connecting or talking to people. And you miss that. You need that. You need people who get it. My partner is a great support, but he's a government job. He's an engineer. He can't quite grasp the stress and everything that's involved. So getting back out there, having catch ups with my friends to really talk things through was probably the biggest shifter, to be like, oh God, yeah, okay, yeah, that was a good question. You're right. What am I doing?
Yeah, sometimes you need some people like you're so right. Oh my God, you don't ask yourself the right questions sometimes. And it is that person that's a little bit objective and out of the emotional roller coaster that we're on that says something, and you're like, oh yeah, it's so obvious.
And I think especially because, we get caught in comparing ourselves.
Mm.
And again, it's not until you sit down, you chat with people, and it's like, oh, well, I've got to, like, so and so's doing X, Y, Z, and then you might be like, no, they're not. They're not enjoying that. They're not happy, or it's like, oh, okay, well, hang on. Why am I chasing something or comparing myself to this phantom?
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so good you said that. I remember once I caught up with another startup founder, and we were talking about somebody, and I was like, oh my God, they're killing it. Like, rah, rah, rah. And she's like, no, they're not. She's like, I know them. And I was like, oh, and it is, we put out the highlight reel, right? Like no
Mm.
one's, I mean, I think more so today, people are sharing the downside of things, but for the most part, everyone's out there going, look at how much of a gigantic success I am, because they're trying to get more customers, trying to grow, trying to get over whatever it is they're trying to get over. So I get it. But yeah, we do compare ourselves to people sometimes that do not have the same goals as we have, are not
Mm.
actually succeeding in the way that we want to succeed. But yeah, we chase this version of success or business that is not what we actually want.
Yeah. And I think, agency land and marketing space as well. I think for women, it can be interesting because there's a lot of men out there, and, there's many of them that do an awesome job, but there's also a lot which, it's that aggressive bro marketing techniques. And, you know, like some of them, I know, and they're fantastic and they're an absolute laugh, but they're okay with burning clients.
Yes.
It's this different mentality. I think, overall, and again, not everyone, but a lot of the women, that I know, that they care. They really care about delivering great results. They don't want to, you know, piss off a client and burn them and just whatever, we'll bring on the next one and we'll just say that went really well in our marketing. So, even that, I think you see this quick growth that
Yeah.
other people achieve, and sometimes it is men, but it's like, I don't want to operate like that. That it makes me icky.
Totally. And it's, I just find it interesting because the world is small. The world is so small and people do talk, like
Mm.
I just feel like we do have to operate from a space of integrity, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because if we want any longevity in our business, it's so crazy. I remember when I lost my first client and then they came back, like they tried it themselves and then they came back, and I was like, it was because we did such a good job, but we were graceful on the way out that they came back. Sure, everyone goes through phases. Like oftentimes brands will outsource, bring things in-house, outsource again. And I was like, it was because we operated from a space of integrity that person came back,
Mm.
but if we were awful on the way out, if we burnt that client, that would never happen. And repeat business is just so valuable that
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like you have to operate from a good place.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes that means, okay, like, yeah, we're putting the brakes on growth, or we're
Mm.
changing what we're doing, or we're saying no. And that can be hard to do. You can feel like, oh, I'm
Yes.
going against the grain, or I just should be saying yes, or I should keep growing. But it's like, oh no, sometimes, yeah, slowing down or stopping or changing is actually more aligned and longer term better.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, we could talk all day.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So I always love to wrap up these podcasts with one last piece of advice. So reflecting on your last 6 years in business, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to another woman on her journey?
Ooh, um,
Too many pieces.
yeah, oh, so many. I think something that's really come up and we can lose sight of so easily is that intention and and having intention in your actions in business. Because again, as you're growing, it just be easy to get stuck in this hustle bubble or lose sight. So I think, one piece of advice is, as often as possible, kind of reflect on not only your business goals and values, but your personal ones and what
Mm.
you want to get out of life. And then take those intentional steps. And reach out and have those conversations, because that's usually the best way you can figure it out.
Yes.
Mm.
I love that. I've just written down the word intention. I think that is so beautiful and something that I'm going to take into my day today. It was so
In
good
the
to
world of
have you
intention.
back. Yes,
Thank you.
exactly. Oh my God. So good to have you back, Lauren. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your story with the Spark community. You are amazing.
Thanks for having me.